Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are in this world. This is Hejin Lee with an evening update for Bitcoin. I see a lot of people stressing out, freaking out, getting upset with what really seems like a lateral, lateral horizontal movement of the price. I haven't seen Bitcoin since Genesis move in such a lateral movement. This looks so triangulish still to me. And it is possible that anything can happen. But possible and probable are very different. I have still maintained this as the primary account where we have the A, B, C, oh, picked the wrong one, on the markings, A, B, C, D, and E. I mean, there are just so many people out there who are perma bears on this saying that Bitcoin is just going to go smoke. It's going to crash and burn. And the only thing is they've been doing this for quite a while. That Bitcoin is dead. How many times now? How many times do you have to be proven wrong? But I don't think they care about that. They just don't believe in it. Now, this still remains as my primary account, and Bitcoin is not dead. And these 2 points are touching. Having only 2 points touching is not the most ideal situation either, I know, especially on a trend line. Now, one thing I notice is that if we go to the daily scale, it just looks so triangular. If we just look at the MACD, but look at it without the histogram, okay. And quite often I do this. I just turn off the price. It gets too exciting. Too much emotion goes through you when you see the price. It's a lot smoother to look at the MACD. And here is the zero line right here. I'm going to draw a blue zero line. Right there. Only a few times has the MACD fallen below the zero line. Once here, this was the early fall correction. This was the June-July correction, so on, so on, so on, throughout the whole time. We are at what looks like to be an all-time low. An all-time low on the level of the MACD. Minus 275. And that's very interesting. If we are at an all-time low for the leading indicator, which is the 12-day moving average, the red line is the 26-day moving average. So the 12-day moving average moves ahead and faster than the 26-day red line. That's why they call it MA, moving average. And the convergence and divergence, how they converge and diverge, how they move, gives indications of by yourself. And that is how you use the MACD. The fact that it is only a 12-day moving average, when you combine that with a 26-day moving average, the 12-day moves faster, moves ahead of the slower red line 26-day moving average. So we are at an all-time low, and people are saying it's going to crash. It's going to crash to 2,000. I'm hearing 3,000, 4,000. It's going to die. It's very interesting. So here we are at an all-time low. For the MACD, and yet the price is not. Price is not at an all-time low. Here from A to C, we have a higher high. Here from A to C level equivalent, we have a lower low. That is a positive divergence. There are no guarantees. This is not a game of certainty. It is a game of probabilities. You look for the indications. You look for the patterns and the counts. You identify as many possibilities as possible. Narrow it down to a handful of probabilities. And from that, you select your primary and your alternates. That is the process that I use. Now, counting corrections is always a challenge. For LA waves, there are about 36 combinations of corrections. So 1 in 36 is about 2.7%. which is why during corrections I usually don't do much of selling and I do more of buying, but by nibbling. I had a gentleman say, hedging, I raised a lot of cash. Next day, oh, I ran out of all my cash because I bought everything I wanted. That's not the way to do it. I take nibbles, small, incremental nibbles, and I ladder in. Laddering in is a tutorial that I have posted on the end of every blog. Very detailed explained in that video. Laddering in is scaling in your buys. Never buying everything in one fell swoop single transaction. Because that'll give you buyer's remorse. That's when price goes below your buy price. And you have no more cash left to do any more buying. An all-time low on the MACD does not give a very high probability for a crash scenario. A positive divergence in the price, higher low on the price, and yet a lower low, decisively lower low in the MACD. And while hitting that lower low, it did an all-time low on the MACD level of minus 275 below the zero line. So is it oversold? Could be. Should be. Close to it. Could we go a little lower in the price? Of course. But I like the way this looks very triangle-like pattern. And it seems to be supported by the all-time low for MACD. Now, bear in mind my alternate account, which I have been presenting now for several days. And that is this. But if the MACD is at an all-time low, to crash this to even lower than where it's gone before, below A, it will take some immense number of sellers coming out and selling and dumping it all. Where then the MACD will go to maybe minus 500 level. Think of it as a rubber band stretching. Here's a rubber band stretching. Easy to stretch, no problem. Still really easy. Oh, they have to let go a little bit now. It's going to stretch again. Stretch. If it goes to minus 400, fine. Let it go to 7,000, 8,000. Great times to ladder back in. Meanwhile, the MACD will be so damn stretched, it'll snap. It'll snap with a lot of head space above. And I think if that is a scenario where we have an ABC correction, and I'm not saying that's my primary account, no, that's my alternate account. It just really becomes to me A different pathway, but a same destination. So we need a resolution. Bitcoin is the moon that moves the tide in the cryptosphere ocean. And every altcoin swims in that ocean. So we need a resolution of direction by Bitcoin. Whether it's going to put in the D wave or go ahead and continue with the ABC. And I think the ABC will just be too quick of a correction. Especially for the altcoins, when you see a quick correction, it's not done yet. That correction is going to drag on. Remember the hurry up and wait syndrome? It'll test the patience of anybody. It'll test the frustration level of anyone. That is what I mean by the hurry up and wait. Corrections are always a wait scenario, taking a lot longer than one could expect. Bitcoin does not have that as badly. However, this ABCDE will allow it to extend the correction long enough to eat up the time to still fit into that hurry up and wait syndrome scenario. So what do we do? Well, I cannot tell you what to do. What you do must be self-made decisions. What I do, I wait for the correction to complete. I've raised my cash before the correction, and I am now taking nibbles of incremental buys here and there. I don't blow the whole cash supply in a whole day. That's not the best way to do it, I don't think. Small steps. Speed often kills when you buy. That's why my laddering technique is not a speed-based buying technique. It's a slow, methodical, supply, demand driven, support and resistance based buy and sell zones. So even when I take my nibbles and small incremental buys during this correction, I ladder in. So let's see how the overnight price goes, whether we go ABC. And if it does go ABC, then I know exactly what to do. I'm going to count the subwaves for the 5 waves of C. If it wants to go D, then I'm going to expect an E down. Let's see how the overnight price action carries us. The last thing you ever want to do is panic. Awareness keeps the panic away. Cash at hand empowers you to buy when everyone's freaking out, to be greedy when everyone's fearful, fearful when everyone's greedy. Okay, have a good night. Talk to you in the morning.